evaluate the following, and then we have 4 division problems. Let's look at them one at a time. We've got 5.12 divided by 8. We're going to set up the division problem as normal. The first number goes on the inside, the second number goes on the outside. And in this situation, we're going to leave things like they are. There's something that we're going to have to do later if the number outside the division symbol has a decimal point in it, but because this is a whole number, we actually can leave things like they are. So what we're going to do is do the division, and we're going to ignore the decimal point. So 8 doesn't go into 5, but it does go into 51 6 times, because 6 times 8 is 48. When we subtract, we're left with 3. Bring down the 2. 8 goes into 32 4 times. 8 times 4 is 32. We're left with nothing else. And so our answer is not 64, because we've got to deal with a decimal point. But if we bring the decimal point straight up from where it is and put it in the answer, that's where it's going to go. And we put a 0 out front to make it look nice. So our answer is 0.64. All right, that one was nice. This one's going to be a little bit more work. Let's look at 3 divided by 1.2. Again, we take the first number and put it inside the division symbol. The other one goes on the outside. So we've got 3 divided by 1.2. Now there's a rule that says if we have something that's not a whole number on the outside of the decimal, on the outside of the division symbol, we have to move the decimal point over to turn it into a whole number. So in this case, that would mean we have to move the decimal point over one place. But to account for this, we have to take the decimal point inside, and we also have to move it over one place, which in this case will require putting in an extra 0 there. This looks weird the first time we've done it, but this is how we account for decimals when we're doing division. And then that's exactly where the decimal point is going to go in the answer. It's going to be right there. Let's do the division. 12 goes into 30 twice. 2 times 12 is 24. When we subtract, that leaves us with 6. And now what we can do is we can put in an extra 0 because it's to the right of the decimal point. 30 is the same as 30.0. And we can bring that down, and that allows us to continue. 12 goes into 60 5 times. 5 times 12 is 60. And when we subtract, we're left with nothing. So in the end, we have 2.5, and that becomes our final answer. All right. Let's look at the next one. I'm going to do it on the bottom because there's some space here. 2.24 divided by negative 1.4. Now instantly, we recognize that a positive divided by a negative is a negative. So our final answer is going to be negative, and you can just write the negative there right away, and then we'll set up the division. 2.24 divided by 1.4. Now we don't have a whole number here outside of the division symbol, so to make a whole number, we move the decimal point to the right one place, and we're going to have to do that inside as well, and that's where it's going to end up being in the answer. And once we've done that, we can do the division and ignore the decimals. 14 goes into 22 once. 1 times 14 is 14. When we subtract, that leaves us with 8. Bring down the 4. Now we need to know how many times 14 goes into 84. That is going to be, I believe, 6. 6 times 4 is 24. Carry the 2. 6 times 1 is 6, plus 2 is 8. Good, that was correct. We're left with 0, which means we can stop. We said the answer would be negative, and so our final answer is negative 1.6. And then we've got one more problem here. We've got negative 362.5 divided by negative 0.25. Wow, wow, wow. There's a lot going on here. Big numbers, negatives, parentheses. So it's a negative divided by a negative. So right off the bat, we know the negatives are going to cancel and our answer is going to be positive. So we can ignore those negatives. Now we want to set up the division problem with these numbers. 362.5 goes on the inside. 0.25 goes on the outside. How many places are we going to have to move the decimal point here? It looks like 2 places to get a whole number there, which means it's going to have to move 2 places here. We're going to have to put in a 0 as a placeholder so that we actually can move it 2 places. And then once we've done that, we can move it up into the answer right there. Now let's go through and perform the division. This one's going to be several steps. 25 goes into 36 one time. When we subtract, it gives us 11. We bring down the 2. 25 goes into 112 4 times. 4 times 25 is 100. Leaves us with 12. We bring down the 5. 25 goes into 125 5 times. And in fact, 5 times 25 is 125. And we're left with 0. However, we still have another 0 to bring down. And 25 goes into 0 0 times. We need that 0 so that the decimal point is in the correct place. And now we've got 1,450, which we said was positive, and so that is our final answer.